Hi House and Home, I'm Tommy Smythe. I'm co-founder of the Tom Design Collective, and I'm so pleased to be here to introduce you to this vibrant, amazing, colorful home in Toronto. This is a 19th century row house in the classic Toronto style. Red brick, attached on both sides, would have been inhabited originally probably by a working class family. So it's not a huge house, but it is really well designed, and the Victorians did such a good job of that in terms of layout that we didn't really have to change a lot in this house. When I first met these clients, they told me that they were very interested in having a colorful house. And normally, of course, when you hear that, I've had lots of people say that they love color, but what they mean is they like a red pillow, or they might want to have, a blue chair. These people really meant what they said. And so we set about the business of giving them that, and they really did get it. In an old Victorian house, this would have been the parlor, but the living room here needed to be a gathering space. They love to entertain, they have tons of friends, they have big families. And so we had to look at the tiny footprint of this room and say to ourselves, how do we make this room service all of those people? The first thing that we did, though, was we blocked off an opening between the living room and the dining room in order to give ourselves another wall, not just for seating, but for artwork as well. And that would help us to get the numbers of people that we wanted to be able to accommodate in this room. So the room actually seats 10 people, believe it or not. And one of the ways that we did that was we built in a banquette so that we would have maximum seating in the minimum amount of space. We tucked it under a window so it would feel like a welcoming destination. And then of course we added a few chairs. We could only get 4 in, but we chose 4 chairs that were quite petite. The one I'm sitting in right now is an incredible huggy little swivel chair. So you can enjoy the people over here and the people over here. You can have a little tete-a-tete in front of the fireplace. They're perfect for a room this size. From there, we added an antique daybed, and this gives the room a little bit of a formal air, a little bit of stately grandeur, but also will seat another 2 or 3 tushies. Just behind me is a gas fireplace. We inherited this when we came to the project. The homeowners had moved in, and the first thing they did was add this fireplace in the living room. What we did when we came in was sort of catch our breath a little bit, because in order to get this fireplace into a row house, they had to go all the way straight up. So we had this huge drywall element in the room that for me was really a challenge of how do we make this disappear as much as possible. And the best way to do that is to use mirror. And what it does is it both expands the space, but also it will make a great big oafy element in a room really recede and disappear. The fireplace surround is copper, and my colleague Colin, who worked on this project with me, Colin Baird, was nearly brought to his knees by this element of the project. Basically, we found a company in the United States that makes mirrors that look like this. And we thought, I wonder if we could talk them into making a scaled version of that mirror frame, but as a fireplace surround. But it is completely unique. You'll never see another one like it, because I don't think that company's ever going to do it again. The whole room comes together nicely because it's a riot of color, it's a lot of disparate elements, it's modern and it's old, and it's contemporary and it's vintage, and it has all of these things in this kind of tossed salad. And once all the leaves kind of, settle in and everything sets down, there is enough room for everyone to enjoy it, which is awesome. One of the first problems that you encountered coming into the home was that there was a tiny little vestibule, typical of a Victorian row house, and it was tiled, but then you went straight into wood flooring. It's really not enough space to be able to get your coat off, get your boots off. What if you've got 3 or 4 people arriving at the same time? So one of the first decisions that we made together with the clients were to add the checkerboard marble flooring as far into the house as we could tolerate, creating not just a vestibule and entrance hall, but also a little bit of an introduction to the dining room further beyond. When you head down the front entrance hall toward the dining room, you realize that you're emerging into what is really the heart of the home. It's right in the middle of the house, and it's red, like all good hearts are. And it was, for me, almost a little bit of a test, maybe verging on a dare, because I'd been wanting to do one for a really long time and hadn't had the client with necessarily the right chutzpah to be able to embrace the idea of a red dining room. These kids just looked at me and said, absolutely, we would love that. So that's how we ended up with this red dining room, which is actually 2 shades of red. It's a very dark red to outline the surface molding on the walls, and then a nice medium red on the walls themselves, and a pink ceiling in the coffers. This room, like all the rooms in the house, needed to have a balance of our main colorways. So here, of course, we have the red walls. That's the main event. But to support those red walls, we have our blue in the artwork, significantly, an amazing piece that looks so good in this room. It's a winter scene, so it tempers the heat of the red in this room, literally. But also we have an incredibly contemporary fabric in all of our colors on these 18th century chairs. These are period chairs, they're very, very good, and they were specifically purchased just for this house. In the back here, we have an incredible fabric that pulls in all of those colors. The window doesn't bring us a lot of light, but it's nice to be able to dress something in fabric. And this fabric, the chairs that are upholstered fully, they're so exuberant and so joyful that they balance out that level with these walls, which are really a lot. The kitchen was a mini makeover. We had to add a few elements to the kitchen and remove a few elements. We really kept a lot of the guts of the kitchen and then treated it more or less as a decorating project versus a renovating project. The island was added. It has sushi grade Japanese wood on the top, which is my client's passion, is cooking and especially Asian cuisine. The backsplash was replaced with something a little bit more colorful. The lower cabinets were painted in this incredible green from Fair & Ball, which is not a green that is in their usual deck. It's something you have to special order from a previous collection. We wanted to do a green kitchen that felt different than the other kitchens. And that's why we sought out a slightly unusual, rare, harder to get paint color for it. We haven't gone dark on all of the trim. What I decided to do was really pull out the big openings that would introduce you to a new space in black. And then the rest of the trim, the baseboards, the other door casings that are less important, is done in an off-white. This lantern, of course, an incredible discovery, a great find, wonderful for this kitchen. But I had it custom painted with our green from our cabinetry and with a little bit of that magenta that you see in the next room in the dining room, just to link it to the rest of the house. I don't like it when you walk into a kitchen and you feel that it doesn't relate to the rest of the house or look like the rest of the house. That can't happen. So here we have the color scheme brought through and the exuberance and the joy of the furnishings brought into the space with the lantern and the stool. The stool's kind of fun too. Most of the colors that you see that are really punchy throughout the house are repeated in many different rooms. So a red room will have a little bit of blue and green. A green room will have a little bit of red and blue. A blue room will have some red and green in it. So it's very important for me when you're using these dual tone colors that are very strong to maintain consistent strength. And also to support these colors with something that feels like a through line throughout the house. So, using bold color, it's an advanced maneuver. It's not for everyone. That's one of the reasons that people are so afraid of color. And one of the reasons that people need professional interior designers. You have to have some balance to those kinds of things or else you feel like everything's a feature. And when everything's a feature, nothing's special. I think the great thing about an historic home is that it will always be relevant. And you can take an historic home and you can furnish it and decorate it in a way that feels very current. So the adaptability of that kind of style of home is really interesting to explore for me. They do lend themselves to color. The Victorians liked color. We can take that cue and interpret that in an incredibly modern and contemporary way.